How y'all doing? This is James Volpe Rotondi for my friends at Acoustic Guitar Magazine. I recently wrote a review about, for acoustic guitar of course, about two really interesting, I think rather bold new guitars from our friends at Martin. Your friends at Martin. You've known them a few years, like over 100. Anyway, you know, a company like Martin, you know, has such a strong legacy that one of the questions I suppose one asks oneself is, you know, how do you maintain that legacy, but, you know, still keep ideas moving, still keep adventurous ideas moving, and every so often be fairly bold. Well, Martin's had a few pretty bold designs over the last few years, and these are no exception. For starters, on my left here is the rather incredible Martin Super D. What does that mean? Well, it's a super dreadnought. It's a Super D-28, which means it has extra size over a conventional D-28. The body cavity is just plain bigger. We'll get into that later. More volume and a little more depth and richness, I might argue. Cradled in my arms is the new Martin D-18 StreetLegend. So it's one of a number of satin-finished Martins that Martin's been putting out lately. And specifically, the StreetLegend series right now includes this D-18 and also a D-28. As you can see, it's got the aged and weathered look. I might argue that it's more look than actual weathering, but this is a nuanced conversation. Relicing in general, it might be a nuanced conversation, but perhaps this one especially so. But it's an absolutely magic version of a D-18. There's nothing D-18 about it, but we'll get into more of that later. So let's dive in. I'm first going to play you a little bit and talk a little bit about the new CF Martin Super D, Super Dreadnought, and then I'll play a little bit and we'll talk a little bit about this D-18 StreetLegend. Sound good? All right, stay with me now. All right, cool. Yeah, so that's a little taste of what the Martin Super D or Super Dreadnought, or if you want to think of it this way, the Super D-28, has in store for you. And that's without even using the low D string, which I'm in open G tuning now. And I did that intentionally so that you could hear some of the incredible richness that comes out of this increased body size. That bass, I mean, it's the VTS Torified Sitka Spruce top, which just really seems to just love and take to this extra size. My model has the Guatemalan rosewood back and sides, and it's a rather luscious piecing together here. You can see it's a multi-piece back. It's got that beautiful binding, purfling, etc. Beautiful, sort of design around the outside. The rosette is classic, simple Martin. Almost everything about this guitar is pretty deluxe. And of course, those lovely Goto tuning machines, open machines, are a really nice touch. It comes with a rather hefty price tag of around $5,000. But, wow, I mean, it's an amazing player's guitar. It is so tonally rich, it's uncanny, and I don't just mean because of those increased bass frequencies or the increased volume. It's just like a beautiful EQ curve. Like if you were thinking of a graphic EQ, it would have this beautiful curve where it almost almost seems like it escapes some of those annoying mids you might get out of some guitars. It seems to escape some of the pouchy low end you sometimes get. It is just... I mean, it's just a cannon of a guitar, but again, a cannon with a very rich sound, a very complex sound. So it's almost like, you know, some of those really tall soccer players like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who despite his great size also has beautiful footwork. It's kind of like that. So it's kind of got the best of both worlds. This particular one has a built-in Bags preamp pickup system, but I believe the custom shop version as it stands does not necessarily have this. Nevertheless, I don't know what more you can say about this lovely guitar with a 25.4-inch scale. It's just a lovely instrument, and that's that, with a price tag to go with it. But you make up your mind. Read more about it in my review just below. All right, let's get on to that D-18 StreetLegend, shall we? Well, welcome to the new Martin D-18 StreetLegend. I mean, this guitar is everything you want a D-18 to be. You know, it's got the classic spruce top, mahogany back and sides, as you'd expect. It's got that distinctive body shape, which is just so comfortable in your lap. It's so easy to manage, you know what I mean? It's got the beautiful low oval profile neck, which is, you know, really a pleasure to play. It's got all the mid-range kind of snap and bite that you'd expect, and of course a little less slow end than you'd get out of a D-28, or certainly the Super D that we talked about a little while ago. That said, it doesn't lack for low end. It isn't like that. A D-18 has never really lacked for low end. It's just maybe comparable in some ways to the Gibson J45. It's just that more sort of mid-focused sound. And this D-18. While it has some obviously notable differences from sort of a stock or traditional D-18, is really very much a D-18. And, you know, a D-18 is a glorious thing. Obviously, you know, at first blush, what makes this sort of special or different or bold is the fact that it's got this Relic top. Now, it's funny because Relic electric guitars, I mean, almost anything goes, right? Because a Relic on an electric guitar needn't just look old. I mean, that's one way to go. But you could also just make it look interesting. You could try something artistic. You know, there's all kinds of ways. But of course, an acoustic guitar is a little different, maybe, and we have different expectations. Now, this particular Relicing, if we can call it that, more about that in a second, very much echoes the sort of famous Kurt Cobain. I think it was 1953 D-18 that was gifted to him by Boston singer-songwriter Mary Lou Lord back in the early 90s, and which he played just about everywhere. Very iconic for him, and it now lives in the Martin Museum. This top, this particular aging and weathering pattern is eerily similar, shall we say, to Kurt's guitar. But it is notable that as I run my hand across this top, none of these gouge marks feel like anything, and that's because unlike most relicing, which uses certain kinds of art materials, if you will, that kind of sometimes erode a finish, sometimes they literally will gouge the top. None of that's happened here. This is actually something called digital microburst technology, a type of printing. So in a sense, this is actually kind of a picture of a very old vintage guitar and beaten up guitar that's been applied to it is essentially a pristine, if satin finished, Martin spruce top. Now, you could debate the merits of that. On the one hand, does it feel like a real relic? No, which might strike some people as a bit odd and perhaps a bit inauthentic. That said, you could also argue that, you know, given the beautiful mahogany back and sides, these lovely open tuners, given this beautiful neck, etc., you're getting essentially a brand new D-18 without any weathering that just looks weathered. Your call on what you like. Aesthetically, the jury's a little bit out for me. I do think it looks sexy. I do think it looks cool. But I wonder if I wonder sometimes if you know, how much nerve I would have to trot it out. But I must say it's a solid D-18 with a very bold and cool new look. And man, the thing certainly sounds like $1 million. There's there's nothing about that sound that isn't balanced in terms of the frequency spectrum, rich. There's nothing about that sound that is anything but professional and, you know, very much a Martin D-18. So let's round it up. Your pick and your price tag. The Martin Super D Dreadnought adds a good 20% to the body cavity size, roughly, of a D-28. The D-18 StreetLegend retains the classic characteristics of a D-18, but it also adds a certain kind of allure and look of its own. And my recommendation is go see one. Let it sit in your hands. You know, it may well grow on you. In fact, I think this one's growing on me. But again, this is something you'll want to eyeball. I just wouldn't want you buying one thinking that you're going to get all the real weathered stuff. You're not going to get the real texture of a weathered guitar. So just be aware of that. My recommendation, yeah, go out, sit with one, see how you like it. Same deal with this if you can come buy one. Custom Shop puts this out. This one's about $5,000. This one's about $23,000, $24,000. Again, read the review for specifics on those things. But I hope you've enjoyed this little spin for these two guitars. And again, this is James Volpe Rotondi for Acoustic Guitar. Check out the review below and come see us at acousticguitar.com.